Eagle life, eagle life, eagle life, eagle life, Southside, eagle life, eagle life, eagle life, drop a life, eagle life, subscribe.
Questions to ask, right? I campaign with the confidence rising. I told WDF don't switch, good times are coming on even deep diving. Fan cams, reactions, watch along, still the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South, they flying. Keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to Eagle-Eyed Football. This is game week 4 of the Premier League review show. Here with me, I will be joined shortly by my co-host Statman Dan and Nate. For the moment, it is just myself with you guys, and I am pleased to bring you episode 4 as we go into the first international break. It is going to be a big episode for this one because there is a lot of goals, a lot to talk about, as well as our weekly brick and baller of the week, and we find out who has made this week's Eagle-Eyed Football Team of the Week. We start today's episode at finally the opening of Kenilworth Road and against Luton Town. This game finished Luton Town 1, West Ham United 2. Unfortunately, the Luton homecoming spoiled by West Ham, who seem to be going strength to strength in August ahead of their starts in the Europa League. The goal scorer is Mads Andersen, who scored a late consolation goal in the 92nd minute of the second half. It would be Jared Bowen, who again gets his name on the score sheet ahead of this game. Kurt Zouma would put the nail in the coffin and earn 3 points for West Ham in this game. And it certainly is going to be interesting how Luton do in September. They've had a difficult run coming up against some difficult opponents. West Ham seem to be firing on all cylinders. David Moyes has got this team running so smoothly, running with all cylinders firing. Bowen deserves an England call-up for this. For this month alone, he's shown that he deserves an England call-up. And he's certainly shown confidence in his goal scoring ability and also in his passing ability on and off the pitch. Whether he starts or comes on as a sub, this man is a threat. And I would say any Premier League team, any of the 19 teams when it is their turn to face West Ham, must be looking at Jared Bowen as the main attacking threat for West Ham. Not to mention also with their midfield looking as strong as it did last season. They also have James Ward-Prowse, and we know from set pieces, this man is the biggest threat in the Premier League, bar none. That is, in my personal opinion, I think he is the best set piece taker in the Premier League, probably of this era. Of course, we've had these threats from set pieces before. Beckham, Ronaldo, Henderson, Ward-Prowse. And now it seems Jared Bowen has stepped up to really become one of the most goal-scoring threats for him. As Neil says here, we nearly got him. It's a shame he went to Wet Spam. Yeah, it is, obviously. So if we go back to when Jared Bowen was still at Hull City, his contract was running down, and he had the choice of either Crystal Palace or West Ham. He chose West Ham, and it certainly has helped his career choosing West Ham. Obviously, on and off the pitch. Obviously, you know, he's in his personal life. He's gotten married. He's had a child. And he certainly started his life at West Ham. And yeah, Bowen is probably the biggest threat in the mid-table section of the Premier League that I would say any other team has to focus on. Big up to Neil. Thank you very much for that comment on Facebook. The Manchecutioner says, don't forget to smash the like on the way in, folks. Thank you very much. Yes, of course. And as I've said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss out on any of the Eagle-Eyed Football content as well. Right. Now we're going to move on to one of the first two draws of the weekend, and this was a thrilling draw which had everything. Sheffield United 2, Everton 2. And for these two teams, this was a go all-out game. Many pundits, many YouTubers, a lot of content creators are predicting these two teams to be in and around the relegation zone. Sheffield have certainly bucked that trend in their opening first 4 games, picking up vital points here and there in their first 4 games. Everton really look like they're in trouble. They have a lot of work to do over the next 2 weeks in the international break. Of course, they have Beto in, but whether or not he can be that talismanic attacker that they need a goal scorer. The goals from this game coming for Sheffield were Cameron Archer. He gets off to a flying start. Unfortunately, it would also be Jordan Pickford who gets on the wrong side of the score sheet. He would unfortunately be caught on the wrong end of the ball and would be put on the score sheet for Sheffield under an own goal. Abdullahi Doucouré, not Doucouré, would open up the scoreline in this game in the 14th minute. Of course, their Doucouré would be the man who scored that goal that would assure Everton Premier League football in this season. And Arnaud Danjuma, who has been touted as a great talent, a great get for Everton. He scored in the League Cup. He would also add to the score sheet and would score the equaliser for Everton. A couple of comments here. Nate, who will be on in just a moment, he'll be joining us soon. Bowen says Bowen doesn't get the credit he deserves. West Ham United fans demonised a lot of their players, Bowen included. Good to see him proving the naysayers wrong. Well, yeah, I would certainly agree with this. He's a really, really good player though, because obviously, to be honest, let me retract that. I don't see a lot of demonizing of Bowen. This is a man who's really, really taken to West Ham, to the lifestyle of West Ham. He's inducted himself into this West Ham team. He scored that goal that won them the Europa Conference League. I'm going to disagree with you, Nate, here, and I'm really, really going to say I think this might be a bad take on your part, because Jarrod Bowen, at least this month, has shown his faith in the West Ham team. He's shown that he can certainly score goals, set up goals, run the pitch. He's a do-it-all player. So I'm not gonna lie here. I'm not gonna lie, Nate. That's a bit of a bad take here. As I'm just gonna welcome in Statman Dan here. Thank you very much.
Nicky.
Thank you very much for joining me here. I know you're off to work very, very soon, so we won't. Hopefully, this won't be as long an episode as it was last week.
That was a bit of a marathon, that one.
That was a bit of a marathon, wasn't it? I want to get your opinion on Jarrod Bowen, please. As we're gonna let me just put up the West Ham. Yeah, there we go. Let's go back to West Ham. Nate obviously says here he doesn't rate Bowen very, very highly. What's your opinion on Jarrod Bowen?
I think he's a very good player. I think he was because we were in for him, weren't we?
Yes,
When
we
he was
were.
at Hull, we were at
Yeah.
Hull, and honestly, I'm a bit gutted that we didn't get him in the end because I think he's a brilliant player. He's got excellent finishing. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if you took. I don't know the answer, but if you took from when he started to now, it wouldn't surprise me if he was one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League. I mean, he's consistent, and I think he's an excellent player.
We've got a bit of love for your classic shirt there, Dan, from the chairman.
Thank you very much. Classic Brazil kit.
There we go. And Neil also says Barron is a very good player, Nate. Fantastic first touch. Yes, his first touch is incredible. Let's go back to the Everton game. And Nate also had a comment here as well. He says Pickford's save at 2-2 redeemed him massively. Yeah. On this one, you're spot on here, Nate. Having watched these extended highlights for this game, Pickford is interesting because I have always rated Jordan Pickford because he commands his area. He commands his defenders like no other goalkeeper in all of the 20 teams in the Premier League. This man is passion personified when he comes to commanding his box. And yeah, sometimes obviously he will make mistakes, but obviously he, as Nate said here, redeemed himself massively. He obviously is the England #1, gets a call up for that, as does our Sam Johnston as well. Is this a case that are we going to see the end of the Jordan Pickford era at Everton at the end of the possibly in January? Because if I'm not going to lie, Dan, it looks like it's the end of the line for Everton in the Premier League, going off of their last 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, I think Everton for me are probably of the sort of 4 or 5 teams that I have in my head. I think Everton are probably 3rd/4th in my mind to get relegated. And Neil's right; he is a proper head case.
He is a proper head case.
But I think I don't know. I think to be fair, I do think the results have been a bit unfair to them so far this season. Like against Wolves, Jose Sarr just had like a mental game, for example. So I think in that sense they have been a bit unlucky. But yeah, I could very easily see them going down this season. It would be a long time coming. So for me personally, in terms of their transfer business, I can't think of a worse team in terms of the money spent and the output they've got from it than Everton in the last 10 years. Even when you include, say, like Chelsea, who spent $1 billion, for example, they still, I think, they still done a lot better with that than Everton have with. I think they must have spent at least about 500, 600 million on generally crap players with no resale value.
It is interesting because Everton have done, as you say, some really bad business. There was a post that I did see of all the teams and their outgoings. Is this it? Yes, it is. Here we go. So the net spend for Everton was, so they spent 38.7 million this season, and they sold in terms of receiving 59.7 million. So around about 21 million pound profit made there. But there's beyond, I could name maybe less than a handful of players that I think really won't be there next season.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
Pickford's one of them.
Well, the thing is, I think it does massively depend on whether they get relegated or not, because I've just had a look and Pickford's contract until 2027, the summer of 2027. So it really depends when they get relegated, I think, because I think most teams, when they get relegated, especially if it's from the Premier League, because of the drop off in the FFP rules and stuff like that, I think a lot of them do try to insert like relegation clauses in.
Yeah.
And obviously it depends. Obviously it's a case by case thing, but it wouldn't surprise me if, say I don't know, Pickford does have a clause that says if they get relegated, there's a, I don't know, like a release clause or something like that. I don't know.
Well, obviously they've got their FFP case coming up next month, which will really determine a lot in terms of the financial direction of the club. I think for Everton, I think relegation is their salvation.
You say that though, but like
it's a massive reset button.
I don't know. I don't get me wrong. Normally, with a lot of clubs, I generally tend to think that, like for example, Southampton getting relegated last season, I think for them was actually probably better than them staying up. For just as like one example, but for Everton, considering that they've got their new stadium coming up, which is costing like, I don't know how much it is, but well, let me just have a quick Google. Bramley Dock Stadium cost. So that's projected to be about $670 million. So what's that like? Oh, well, well over £500,000. So you've got that for a start.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the owner could theoretically just fund that themselves and it doesn't come up on FFP at all. But also, yeah, like Neil's saying, is that they've just done really terrible business. So I've got their transfers up.
Yeah, same here.
So, for example, some of them are unlucky. Some of them are good players, but they just profiled them completely wrong, and so on. So, like, for example, these are all in euros, so knock a little bit off because it's off transfer marks. Like, Yannick Bolasie went to them for 28.9 million euros, so what, 25 million pounds. Bearing in mind, that was before like transfers got silly as well.
Yeah,
that's a key thing to remember. I mean, he was unlucky because he done his knee, but that's one, for example. Gylfi Sigurdsson, less said about him, the better.
Yeah.
Michael Keane was 28. Oh, yeah, Sigurdsson was nearly 50 million euros. Michael Keane was 28.5 million euros. David Claeston was 27 million euros. Walcott, I guess, wasn't too bad, but still, he was 22.5 million euros. And then you've got other players, and this is just one window. This is just 17-18. Vlasic, 10.8 million euros.
Yeah.
And then a couple others who I've never heard of for a combined total about 14. And even better, well, not even better for Everton, but in that window, 22.5 million euros spent on a certain Cenk Tosun.
Dear me, I'm looking at their outgoings for this season. I mean, we look at Neil Maupay. He's gone back to Brentford on loan. He's also released Yerry Mina, Andros Townsend, Asmir Begovic has gone to QPR on a free. Tom Davies has gone to Sheffield on a free. You've got the likes of Mason Holgate, who's gone on loan to Southampton down to the Championship. Alex Iwobi, who left quite late for Fulham for 22 million. You balance that against signing Ashley Young on a free, Danjuma from Villarreal on a loan, Chimetti from Lisbon for 15 million, bringing in Jack Harrison from Leeds, who's just injured, so it makes no sense, and Beto, who they've sort of done a Klarna FC deal that's which is crazy, for just around about £25.5 million.
Yeah,
it's not great. It's not great from Everton. No,
absolutely not. And I think Fayed Mashiri is that's a prime example of how not to run a football club in the sense of like transfers and stuff.
Yeah. Here is JC just saying Archer was class, slightly disappointed we didn't even inquire about him. Yeah, Cameron Archer is certainly hit the ground running for Sheffield United. Obviously, there's a lot of players I think that we should have really had a look at, even just inquired about, as JC's just said. And also the Manchester also says their director of football must have been smoking the strongest of drugs. That is an appalling amount of money. It is indeed. Right, less about Everton. Let's go to another 2-2 draw. And this, the great escape by Brentford at the GTEC. Now, I did not see this coming. not at all. Brentford take an early lead through Matthias Jensen in the 7th minute, and Dominic Solanke gets back onto the score sheet finally on the half-hour mark. He levels it all up, and Solanke is he's really found his feet at Bournemouth. Obviously, he was never going to make it in the Chelsea setup. That Chelsea setup at the time where he was at the club was ridiculous. He makes his move to he ends up at Bournemouth in the end, and he has just been prolific for them ever since. David Brooks, who had a very, I want to say, had a just wonderful interview on Sky Sports Football, talking about his return to football, his health, his fitness after now declaring he's cancer-free. So, again, like I said last season, congratulations to David Brooks. Brian Buemo, who I think now makes it 4 out of 4. I think he's now scored in 4 games out of 4 this season. I might be mistaken on that one. But he scores again in the 93rd minute to rescue a point for Brentford. And it is a 2-2 draw between Brentford and Bournemouth. You have to say, getting a draw here against Brentford for Bournemouth is a huge get for them. This is a team that, is constantly pushing to break into the top 10, constantly trying to have a look in at those lower European places. And Bournemouth have really done well in this game. I've looked at the stats in this game, and this was all Bournemouth. So yeah, Brentford must be taking a huge sigh of release out of this one, Dan.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think if there was a team in this league that could play not as well and still get something out of it, is Brentford. I mean, we've seen that ourselves with Palace. Last season, I know obviously people were upset that we conceded a last-minute goal to them in both games, or just one. I can't remember now. But Brentford last season had the most goals in the last sort of 10-15 minutes of a game of any team in the league, like by quite some distance. So to see them score a last-minute winner isn't unusual, but they'll definitely be happy. But like you said, I think they are missing Tony. Obviously, like with a player that good, a player who's that good at finishing, also just is able to contribute in other ways other than scoring too. They miss him, but then he is back in November, I believe. So, and he's already back in training apparently.
There we go.
So he'll be back soon for them, and I think once he's back, they'll be back in doing better.
I think it's certainly almost a fact that he'll put in a request to leave Brentford either in January or at the end of the season. I don't see him staying there for very much longer, and I think if some of the teams above Brentford were smart enough, they would go in for him. Manchester United being probably the club that I would probably say will go in for him. Obviously he had that interview a couple of weeks ago whilst he's still under suspension, saying, I'm not going to be here for much longer. Kind of shot yourself in the foot there. Hopefully the Brentford fans welcome you back with open arms instead of giving you the bit of the side eye.
It's one of those things though, isn't it? Like for example, like for me, as things currently stand, I would say us and Brentford are probably on average should be finishing slightly above us, but relatively speaking, we're on roughly the same level. And I think if, say, Elise or Gay or Eze came out saying stuff like that publicly, I would be a bit like, that's not very on, is it? Whether, I mean, at the end of the day, we expect all three of those players to move on at some point, but for them to say it in public is something totally different. But yeah, I completely agree. I'm surprised that another team hasn't gone in for him. I'm surprised that maybe it is because of, well, actually, I suppose it all would have been because of all the betting stuff. But in a time where centre forwards are generally hard to come by for mainly for stylistic reasons and and football fashion and stuff like that. Certain forwards on a common thing and haven't been for a while.
No, they're not. They're a dying breed. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're making a bit of a comeback. Like I think players like Haaland and like Tony will make it a bit more of a comeback, like a proper old school centre forward, even a bit like Callum Wilson as well.
Yeah.
I think they will make a comeback. But right now, Tony's probably one of the best out and out strikers around, in my opinion.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that one. Let's go up to Turf Moor. And this was a goal fest.
It was indeed.
This, a 7-goal thriller for Burnley and Spurs. Unfortunately, Burnley getting caught on the wrong end of this one. Just to end the chat on Tony there, JC says it's his attitudes as to why clubs won't go in. After that interview, I completely agree with you there, JC. So Lyle Foster, 2 goals in 2 games recently. That's 2 in his last 2 for Burnley. He scores in the 4th minute, pretty much catching Spurs sleeping there. Welcome, Nate.
Big up, Nate.
Yes, boys. How you doing?
All good, mate. All good. But that would be the only goal that Burnley would score for about an hour and a half of football before Heung-min Son decides, time I got a hat-trick again. He scores in the 16th minute to level it all up. It would be Christian Romero who scores a screamer. This.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, if it isn't included in a goal of the month competition, I don't know what should be. This screamed into the net to make it 2-1. James Maddison would get himself onto the score sheet and certainly has deserved his England. Is he in the England call-up squad?
Who? Sorry,
Maddison. He got called up, didn't he?
I don't know for certain, but I'll be very shocked if he isn't.
Well, I'll have a look in a moment. Maddison would score, and then Heung-min Son would put in 2 goals inside 3 minutes to complete his hat trick, and all 3 goals were Heung-min Son class. Like when this man scores, I said to a colleague who supports Spurs, Heung-min Son just doesn't score crap goals. This man will score like ridiculous goals, long range hits, one touch passes, long runs from box to box. Heung-min Son has certainly stepped up into the captain's armband. He repays Ange Postecoglou for the faith, and Spurs still undefeated in the Premier League. They're not perfect, don't get me wrong, but Spurs seem to be firing under Ange. Now, last week, Nate said that it's still the new manager bounce. Nathan, is this still your opinion?
No, I think to be fair to Spurs, they should be winning against Burnley. I mean, no disrespect to Burnley, but you'd expect Spurs to beat them, because the thing with Kompany is I can understand why he's trying to stick to his guns and play the way he did in the Championship, but you can't do that in the Premier League, especially if you're a newly promoted club. You kind of have to swallow it a bit and go, well, pause, but you have to be careful. No, but hold on. Considering how many
It's looking good, man. It's not looking good at all.
It just caught me by surprise. Like,
Sorry, Nate. Sorry. You were saying Company's football.
Are you finished? Are you finished? Yeah. Okay.
I think we're in trouble, Dan.
Just to let you know, Maddison is in the England squad.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Thank you very much.
Right. But looking at the way that game panned out, Burnley, for me, they're deep in trouble. And some people might argue they've only played 3 games because of Luton and Kenilworth Road and everything. They still need to get something from one of those 3 games they've played. I understand they played Tottenham in the most recent game week, but you have to be getting your first win early doors. Otherwise, it puts unbelievable pressure on the squad and the manager to get a result. And yes, Tottenham, without Harry Kane, you'd still think you might have an outside chance, but they've got players like Son, players like Maddison, who can hurt you. And that's exactly what Tottenham did. They absolutely thumped Burnley. And you can't hate it because, look, Postecoglou, there was always going to be a question mark about him coming down from Scotland. We've seen managers come from Scottish football to English football, and it doesn't always translate into instant success or instant improvement. But Postecoglou came from Celtic. So there's a level of expectation at a club like Celtic, the same way there's a level of expectation at a club like Tottenham. Granted, at Celtic, you're expected to win the league without contest. But at Tottenham, you're still expected to be qualifying for minimum Europa League football every season. So it's not quite manager bounce yet because Tottenham have strung some good results under Postecoglou. But there is an element of when it goes wrong, what happens then? It's going well so far, but when it goes wrong, how long does it take for Tottenham to get back to winning ways is what I would say. But in this result, you can't fault them. They did exactly what you want to do. Get up to Burnley and just completely take the game off them, and they did exactly that. So, hell of a result. But as for Burnley, yeah, they're banging trouble. Trouble.
Do you think, obviously, out of the 3 games that they've played this month, 2 of them have been, one was Tottenham, obviously, in this game week here. Their first game was Man City. Do you not think it's a case of, okay, hang on, they haven't faced a team that's actually not so much at their level of talent, but more so in and around the position that you're expecting Burnley to be in? Is it a little bit unfair on your part there, Nate?
Not really, because if you look, okay, fair enough. They've played City and Spurs both at home. And yeah, you won't expect much from that. But Villa at home, you've got to be getting something from that. To let Villa run away with it as they did, it's of their own making. And reality is, if you're not prepared to put in the work at home, where, let's be clear, home games for newly promoted clubs are pivotal. Away points, you just nick a point as many times as you can away from home and get the odd win here or there. That tends to keep you up. But your home games are crucial. Yes, playing Man City, playing Spurs, you don't expect much. But Aston Villa, you'd expect to maybe get a draw if you're smart enough to keep the game level. But to let Villa run away with it as they did, it's of their own making. I hear what you're saying. But again, Kompany's naivety in trying to play the same way he played last season is going to be their undoing. Because we've seen it time and time again. Clubs play great attacking football, free-flowing football in the Championship. They come up to the Premier League and they get handed 4-3, 5-0 scorelines, close to near enough every week. It's all well and good playing free-flowing football in the Championship, but the Premier League's a different beast. And if you're not careful, that beast will eat you up.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Nate. Let's just go to JC here. It says, do you guys remember what Kompany said about Vieira sacking? He should have a look at himself. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how Burnley do. Obviously, they've got games coming up. They'll finally go on the road next when football returns in 2 weeks' time. It's a case of Burnley will have to really watch themselves now. That's 3 losses. Was it? Yeah, 3 losses on the bounce. And that's not the best start. Obviously, work to be done over the international break. Let's go to perhaps my second favorite result of this entire game week. And this was a win 27 years in the making for Nottingham Forest as they beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge 1-0. Now, before we get into the game's events, I'm just going to read off some stats here from OptaStat. Chelsea had 21 shots against Forest on this game with just 2 on target. The last time that Chelsea had a lower shooting accuracy was against Queen's Park Rangers in 2013. Chelsea have now lost their 5th Premier League home game in this calendar year, their most in a calendar year since 1995, while only in 1993 have they ever lost more in the Premier League. And coming on to Forest, they have won just their 2nd Premier League away game since returning in 2022, having drawn 5 and lost 16, ending a run of 12 games without victory since a 1-0 win against Southampton in January. Now, the last time Nottingham Forest beat Chelsea, I was not born. 1995. Nottingham Forest, take a huge bow because you have just been the greatest entertainment so far this season. Chelsea are in the mud. £1 billion spent, and what do they have to show for it? Embarrassing losses to West Ham and now Forest. A win against Luton, but that's, I'm not gonna lie, like, you put any Chelsea team up against Luton Town, you are just gonna consider a winner here. And of course, the draw at the start of the season against Liverpool. I'm not sure if I should even roast Chelsea, because this is just bad. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
No, it's not bad. It's wonderful, because this is proof that money can't buy you everything. If you look at Chelsea's transfer spending, right, on paper it looks good that they're signing everybody. They're Braids FC Chelsea. That's all. If you've got braids, you're signing for Chelsea. That's all they want. They don't care about if you're good or not. They just want Braids FC, right? But when you actually look at the way in which the post-Abramovich era is unfolding, this is what Chelsea fans deserve. The old school Chelsea fans who were there for the bad times, they're used to this. They know that this happens. But it's those Chelsea fans who were there when Abramovich turned up. Now they know what real football is, because they're not as good as they think they are. And look,
do you think this is Chelsea getting humbled finally?
No, but I would say that this is them realizing that if you don't actually turn up and do the job on the day, you will get exposed. And what happened? Forest exposed them. And let's be clear, nobody gave Forest a prayer. I don't think any of us backed Forest to win in the predictions league.
Forest to win.
I think, everyone said Chelsea to win, not even.
Yeah, so you see what I mean? So us naively backing Chelsea backfired, because I'm thinking, I never saw that one. But fair play to Forest. They thoroughly deserved it. Chelsea are effectively where they should be, which is a mid-table side. Like, you look at where they are now in the league. They finished in the exact same position in the table last season. And bear in mind, they couldn't sign Elise off us. They tried to, but they couldn't. So, look, Chelsea need to get their act together, because themselves, Manchester United, they're both in hot messes right now. Everybody was backing both of these clubs to be title contenders. Title contenders win these games. I'm sorry. Title contenders win these games. Doesn't matter how you win, it's that you win. I said that in my fan cam on Sunday.
Yes, you know? Yeah. We'll get on to the fan cams for the Wolves game later on. Just two more stats here for you. I'm just looking at the.
Hang on. Who's running the stats? Statman Dan or Statman Nicky? Is somebody taking someone's job here? We might have to.
Go on, Nicky. Go on, Nicky.
Jobbing.
It might have been what I was going to say anyway. Go on, Nicky.
It was just about the. I'm just looking at the match timeline for the XG. It is heavily in favour for Chelsea. Obviously, they're like having more than 20 shots. Nottingham Forest was at 0.7.
It was, but do you know what was interesting? Just to attach onto that. So the post shots expected goals, which if people who are watching don't know what that is basically what they do is they basically take the velocity of the shot and where in the actual goal frame it is going, and it averages out over thousands and thousands of games and shots the likelihood of the goalkeeper making that save. So obviously if his top bins are 100 miles an hour, that's going to have a PSXG of 0.99 or something. It only goes up to 1, so it's between 1 and 0. And obviously if it's, I don't know, if it's going at least dribbling along the floor, then it's probably going to be 0, it's going to be 0. Do you know what I mean? So the post shots expected goals for Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, bearing in mind, right, that Chelsea had an XG of 2.3, Matt Turner's post shots expected goals was only 0.2. So basically what that's saying is that the finishing that Chelsea did, they would only actually expect to score once, say, every 5 games or something like that. So
Absolutely incredible.
it is mental, and it goes back to what I can't remember who said it, but about how it was. I think it was you, Nicky, saying like this was their lowest shot percentage, like
This is
whatever.
the lowest shot percentage in 10 years.
Yeah,
I want to start praising Nottingham Forest because Steve Cooper is doing an incredible job at Nottingham Forest. But here is something that could be interesting for them. They've lost Brennan Johnson.
yeah, he is a big part for them because they're a big counter-attacking team, and obviously with his pace, that is really important.
Exactly. They signed 7 players on deadline day, including Nuno Tavares on loan from Arsenal, Divock Origi, who we all know scored perhaps one of the best Champions League goals of all time, Ibrahima Sangare, and of course, they signed former Chelsea winger Callum Hudson-Odoi. Now, not one of those players was included in the lineup, but it has to be said, I originally thought this was second season syndrome for Nottingham Forest. They seem to have bucked that trend. They seem to be the team that actually looks like that they will stay up. I hope they do because Nottingham have given a huge entertainment value, and it's nice to have a club with such history back in the Premier League. Anthony Elanga, who doesn't always score. Like, I cannot remember the last time he was on the score sheet, let alone even a team sheet, for whichever team he played for. Steve Cooper said
it would have been Man United. He played for United last season before he joined Forest, so you have to probably go back to when he played for United.
Yeah, to when he even scored, or let alone even had an appearance. Steve Cooper said in his post-match interview that they used the belief and the frustration out of the results of their last few games from their narrow defeat, at Manchester United, to steer this into a win at Stamford Bridge. You have to say that Burnley, who will be facing Nottingham Forest next on the next Monday Night Football, are really going to be shaking in their boots because Forest look like the team to beat right now. Chelsea head off to Bournemouth on the Sunday. And I would not be surprised if we see in the Predictions League Bournemouth and Forest getting results for wins here. But yeah, there we go. 27 years, a win, a record older than me, finally broken for Forest. Let's go to the Etihad for another hat-trick hero, our second hat-trick hero of the weekend. And of course it is. Of course. Who else would it be? It's not going to be you. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be any one of my good co-hosts here. It is, of course, Erling Haaland. But this game had, say it with me, VAR controversy. Hooray! I can't go a week without using this. And Rich, what do you have to say about this?
This ain't looking good, man. It's not looking good at all.
Thanks, Rich. Manchester City 5, Fulham 1. Really, this should be 4-1 because how Nathan Ake's goal stood with Manuel Akanji standing miles offside is beyond me. But nevertheless, Tim Ream gets an immediate response to Julian Alvarez's opener in the 31st and 33rd minutes, respectively, before Ake would score that, which shouldn't be disallowed, in 45 plus 5. Erling Haaland would then turn on the style with a hat-trick in the 58th, 70th minute from the penalty spot, and the 95th minute. It's kind of a write-off game for Fulham, to be honest. You're not really going to survive Man City at home, are you? Not with a full-strength squad going into, the opening Champions League draw. Yeah, I think Marco Silva shouldn't, really focus on this loss too much. While Man City, who remain 4 out of 4 wins at their last 4 games. Yeah, not much else to say about this. It's pretty much just a standard Man City thrashing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Thing is, like when you play City, if you get anything out of them, especially away from home, like you need a bit of luck. They didn't get it. You also need them to make a lot of mistakes. They didn't. You need Erling Haaland to remember that he's a human being. That didn't happen.
No.
And you also need to be absolutely on it, which I don't think they were either, to be honest.
I think I can't remember the last team who've like full on embarrassed Man City at the Etihad.
Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the beyond us. I don't want to be biased, but I think the last
Spurs
time,
maybe didn't Spurs beat them home and away one
Spurs, yeah.
since I think, but yeah,
I think the last time they suffered a bad defeat at the Etihad was Man United in the Manchester derby a couple of years ago, and it was a bit. I think it was when City were gunning for the title, and I think Pogba scored like in the last minute or something.
Yes, I think you're right. I think you're spot on for that one, Nathan, because I do remember the Man United fans going absolutely mad in the corner. But that hasn't happened recently for Manchester United. They've been out of luck in their game. The Manchester said he had to go back and look. The last time Elanga scored was against Leeds in the 21-22 season. Ralph Rangnick played him, but he never got game time once Ten Hag stepped into the job. That says it all, doesn't it? And that's a little unfortunate for Elanga. Wow, your last goal was under Rangnick.
Jesus.
Ugh.
Well, in fairness to him, I'd rather that be Rangnick than Ollie. If Ollie was the last time he scored, then that would have said a lot. Because, you know, you were seeing a lot of United fans complain about the football under Solskjaer, but Man City against Fulham, I don't think anybody saw Fulham getting anything up at the Etihad. Let's be fair, it's a fortress for City. It has been for years, and that's what Pep is building. He's building that mentality of they are literally the proverbial Goliath here.
It's interesting that you bring up Pep, Nate, because now this was something that's broken on social media, and I think it's been picked up by Sky Sports in the last few hours. Is that the FA are looking to replace, well, when the time comes, to replace Gareth Southgate with Pep Guardiola in the England job.
That's never going to happen, is it?
That's ludicrous.
The thing is that this, in my opinion, generally you don't get good national managers, not anymore anyway. Like the best in recent times is probably Mancini, because like at the end of the day, you only play however many times a year. You'll get a tournament every 2 years. Why would you go for that when you could be Pep and win the treble with City?
Yeah.
Not even that, but if you look at it, the pressure at Manchester City is not the same with the pressure of England. You look at the pressure the media put on the England national team every tournament. The one time they didn't put pressure on the England team, they got to the World Cup semi-final and subsequently the Euros final. But that's because England fans were telling the media, stop telling them that it's coming home. It's not coming home. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. But now you look at it and you're thinking, if you're Guardiola, you're literally building something that every other fan up and down the country only wishes they had, which is a team that is just a winning machine. Even when City lose, you still know they're going to be in and around that picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When City lose, you're always saying to yourself, yeah, they lost, but they're just going to win the next weekend anyway. So it's not like you're going to see City go on a mad run of losing games.
Yeah. And so I was just saying, just a touch on the toxic media. Don't buy the Sun.
100%.
100%. Just Neil here, and also we'll get on to another comment from JC. Leicester did score 5 at the Etihad as well, and of course Wolves when Adama Traore tore them a new one.
That ain't a pause. We know what he means by that.
Well, I just wanted to, just be careful. Right now, Now, oh boy, I think the time for us to, curse Brighton is over. I think the Brighton curse is never gonna come back. Evan Ferguson, take a good bow here, sir. A brilliant hat trick for him as Brighton Hove Albion coast through, and that's not a pun, no pun intended. They coast through Manchester United, Newcastle United. This was shocking. Who had this was supposed to be Newcastle, Brighton, and you're expecting this game is going to be tough. Newcastle never even turned up. Evan Ferguson, who has now 4 goals. Yeah, because he scored in the opening weekend. Yeah, he scores a brilliant hat trick. He's our last hat trick hero of the game weekend. And guys, what's gone wrong at Newcastle? Because this is 3 losses in a row now.
Well, all I'm going to say, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to say, I can't turn off the ring. I'm sorry. All I'm going to say is, once again, statistically, Brighton have got unlucky. That's all I'm going to say. They created only 0.1 more XG than Newcastle did. It's only by virtue of the fact that they didn't score their chances early on, and Evan Ferguson is just some freak.
He's a freak of nature. He really is.
But yeah, shout out to Evan Ferguson. He's a brilliant player.
I'm so very glad that he at this stage of his career has said no to changing his nationality to English.
To be fair though, I wasn't expecting that at all, because I know we can look at Grealish and Rice, but then Grealish and Rice literally grew up here, and as far as I'm aware, they only had grandparents who were born in Ireland, whereas Evan Ferguson, I know his mum's English, but he literally grew up in Ireland. So I would have been very surprised if he changed his mind. But
we've seen it before though, Dan. That's the thing. We've seen players that were born in Ireland declare for England because of, and it's the same reverse has happened. You've had English-born players play for Ireland instead. So you never know. But I think they've tried to close that kind of loophole, because obviously there was a lot of fallout from the Declan Rice thing, and Grealish wasn't that big a loss, but Declan Rice was, because the lack of good players now for the Irish national team, it's beginning to be a bit of a concern. There are some beginning to emerge from the lower leagues, but there's none at Premier League level that you can say, right, we can build something off these. Now, Evan Ferguson is probably the most well known outside of, I think, that fellow who plays for Rotherham. Yeah, I saw that as well, Nicky. I saw that as well. With Newcastle, it's just simple. They took advantage of a lot of teams that fell off last season and got top 4, but they haven't really added enough quality to that squad to say, right, this is Newcastle laying down a marker that they're here to be here for the long haul. Brighton are nothing special, but they're good at doing what they do, which is getting the job done when they need to get the job done. Newcastle just expected that it was going to be a closer game than it was. And if Newcastle had actually turned up, it could have been. But it was a walk in the park for Brighton. And unfortunately for us, yeah, it looks like they could really be back up there again this season, which, it sucks for us to see that, but credit to them. They've done what we didn't, and that's be ambitious in every transfer window. Because how many times were we holding on to players well past their prime for the sake of, but they'll just keep us up. But we should have got rid of them ages ago, brought in fresh blood, brought in players that would have actually changed something and done something a bit different. But I could go on and on about our transfer strategy, so we'll keep it moving. But look, fair play to Brighton, got the job done, got the 3 points. And I saw the Europa League group. Actually not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad either.
It's an entertaining group for Brighton and Newcastle.
If you was a fan, those would be ones that you'd want, though. Even though, I mean, as in, if you were going to the game, if you were going to Milan away, away. I mean, as will they get out of the group? Obviously, it's quite tough, but In terms of like as a fan going to the game, like fair play, that's
Well,
pretty
having
sick.
Ajax in their group is going to be a hell of an experience because obviously Ajax's atmosphere at the Johan Cruyff Arena is something to behold. So that might teach them how to make an atmosphere in a bowl of a stadium. But that being said, you look at Newcastle on the other hand, and I'm looking at their Champions League group, and I think it's peak for Newcastle. I really do.
It was always going to happen because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the Champions League done by the coefficients?
Yeah, and this is the last year of the group stage.
Yeah, and it's not done by where you actually finished. Well, I guess they did finish fourth, but because obviously they haven't played in the Champions League since like 2003 or something.
Yeah, it's been 20 years since they last in the Champions League.
Yeah, so their coefficient is effectively like 0.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Having seen who else they've got in their Champions League group, Newcastle, that is, I wouldn't be surprised if a certain team finishes 4th and Newcastle finishes 3rd, and they get that Europa League drop-down spot. Because right now Dortmund are looking like hot trash.
I think it's going to be a case of who's worse on the day. To be honest, it could go head-to-head between the two of them. Because look, Newcastle, this is the thing, right? For all the money they have, they don't look any better from before they had the takeover. There aren't many players there that you say, oh, wow, they're going to be game changers for Newcastle. Like Sandro Tonali doesn't want to be there.
I mean, like, Guimaraes definitely is an excellent player.
No, I'm not saying they don't have good players. What I'm saying is there's not game-changing players in that Newcastle team. There's still players there from pre-takeover.
I don't know. I think they have. Hold
on. The only players I'd say they actually have improved on is Isak and Guimaraes, and maybe Dubravka. But there aren't many. Nick Pope. Sorry, they're the 3 for me that I think they've actually upgraded on. But there's too many players in that Newcastle team that you're like, these players aren't exactly Champions League, Premier League contending quality. And yes, it's going to take time for them to build that. But what I'm saying is that for a club, for the expectation Newcastle fans are putting on the club, they look bang average. And bear in mind, they've got unlimited resources to buy whoever they want, and they still can't get it right. And under a manager like Eddie Howe, they're only going to go one way, and that's Europa League at best.
There we go.
Okay, JC said Botman. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Botman. Maybe Sven Botman, but you see what I'm saying? Yeah. You couldn't really call out a Newcastle 11 of outright top bracket, close to world-class players at Newcastle. And I get that it takes time for them to get that. But they've still got Joe Linton in midfield, for crying out loud. He's garbage.
He's not bad in midfield too. He was terrible.
Dan, he's garbage. He's garbage.
One thing I want to say about Brighton is that I hope they don't bring their Bayer Leverkusen ultra mates along next time, because otherwise they get run down Brighton High Street again.
As Nate said, Tonali doesn't want to be there though, or at least gives the impression that he doesn't want to be there. But
Tonali's a good player. Like, don't get me wrong, he is a good player, but he has no interest in being there. He only went there because I think either Milan needed the money, or Milan are desperate to sell him so that they get something for him. But it looks like he has no interest in playing up in the northeast.
Apparently, it wasn't his choice. That's what I heard. Like, apparently, he didn't want to leave or something.
No, because he's a boyhood Milan fan. And think about it. If you're playing for your boyhood club, you've no real reason to leave. So it smells like Milan will force to sell him, because I know that Milan's finances have been somewhat dodgy, because Inter's finances have been somewhat dodgy lately. So, you know what I mean? There's a lot of parallels between the way that came about. But look, we could go on and on and on. Let's move on.
Fair enough. Just last few comments here from the Magicianer. Says that Newcastle are going to sink in the Champions League. Well, we will see in 2 weeks' time. JC just following up with saying he still plays well, and he says doesn't matter if he doesn't want to be there or not, he is still playing well. Right. Shall we go to a game that we all...
How has he done that?
My. Did you just remove yourself?
Yeah.
Who did that last time?
An incredible
JC.
JC did it.
Yeah, JC did it. Yeah. And the same reason. It's the side buttons on the mouse. My bad. My bad. There you go, guys. Always some entertaining content here on Eagle-Eyed Football.
Oh, Lord.
Right.
Sorry.
No, that was you that time. I know it was.
No,
It
that
wasn't
was
me.
No, it was me.
All right, no. Wait. I love how he goes straight to think it was me, you know. Oh, okay.
Because it usually is you. Anyway, right, guys, shall we talk about a game?
That time it was me.
That wasn't me. I was drinking
No,
water.
that time it was me. Just to teach him a lesson.
Okay, enough now. Enough. Shall we talk about a game that we were all at and we can all talk about? Yes.
I mean, we don't really need to talk about it because we had fan cams for it, but we can review it if need be.
Well, we have to review it. It's a Premier League game. It's kind of the clues in the name of the show.
Really, I didn't know that, Captain Obvious. Holy hell! Where'd you come up with that?
Right, Crystal Palace 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 2. Pretty much a game of one half. This was the first half was an absolute ball fest. Back and forth action here with the goals. Odson Edouard would open up the scoring, and well, Hwang Hee-chan would then come on to the pitch and would score almost instantly. As we've seen, he is pretty much a prolific goal scorer for Wolves. I believe that's now 2 in 3 appearances for him. Ebere Eze would restore Palace lead, but not before also assisting an Odson Edouard second goal in the 84th minute to almost assure Palace what would be a 3-1 win, but not before Matheus Cunha in the last few seconds of the game would earn a consolation goal for the Wolves, and it would finish Palace 3, Wolves 2. And as the headline says there, the Sunny Celeste sees off Wolves. This was a hot game, wasn't it?
It was a hot game, but I think if anybody had actually watched the first half, you'd question why it was put on Sky Sports, because it was just an absolute bore fest. I mean,
it was. There was only as I always do, I always make notes for the game. I have on here 3 notes. Jefferson Lerma had a chance in the 15th minute. We have a corner in the 21st minute, which Jose Sarr. We'll talk about Jose Sarr in a minute. Ebere Eze has a free kick in the 24th minute, which is again saved by Jose Sarr again. I think he's probably going to be the difference maker for Wolves in terms of not in their defense. It's Jose Sarr. What a keeper.
Yeah, he's brilliant. But I'm going to level with you. I wasn't expecting us to win the way we did, because I think if you looked at both teams before the first goal, you'd have thought, why did they pick this up? And obviously we know why they picked it over Liverpool Villa, because Liverpool have been on 2 of the last weekends out of the 3 before the game had played. But it was just really poor until the opening goal. And I understand that Roy probably wanted to just keep it, keep it together and not give Wolves too many chances. But neither side looked threatening at all in the first half. And obviously I was in the back of the Arthur Wait, and you could hear people behind me and in front of me. They're all thinking, why did we spend money to watch this? Because it was just not a good game of football. It was a really flat game of football. And don't get me wrong, once Edouard scored, you're like, okay, great, 1-0, that's great. Try and keep it together and maybe see this out or build on it and get a second goal. And I thought, Palace scored 2 goals at home. You sure you've been Palace before? But then you look at the equaliser and it's schoolboy defending. And you're thinking, who's picking up Hwang? I mean, fair play, hell of a header. But I think, what annoyed me about the goal was, I understand that you can't be everywhere, but the marking was just so off, and he's got the freedom of Sellers Park to bang that in behind Sam Johnson, who had no chance with it. We can't give out to
right over him. Yeah.
we know that SJ is probably one of our better goalkeepers we've had in a few years. I mean, Guaito was up there for a bit to an extent. Hennessy was for maybe 1.5 seasons, but obviously I haven't. Everybody knows me and Hennessy. But
I was about to say, is this eagle-eyed Nate praising Wayne Hennessy? No.
But look,
this?
No, hang on. I know I've got an issue. Even I could admit for a while he actually was half decent, right?
This ain't looking good, man. It's not looking good at all.
Wow, I can scratch that off the bucket. Let's see Nate praise Wayne Hennessy.
But look, what I'm saying is that the ebb and flow of the second half probably saved us from a very boring game because it was just really poor. And I think actually we were pretty lucky to come away with a win because neither side really deserved it on the balance of the overall game. It was a pretty average game, to be proved. It's only because the second half was so explosive with non-stop goal action. But the subs changed the game. And fair play to Roy because I think Mateta, I'm still pretty sure James is cartwheeling since Mateta got those 2 assists because you want to see the look on the lad's face. He was just so happy and fair play to them. But look, got the win, 7th in the table. We can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a bit of I don't know if anyone saw it, but I posted on Twitter all the points we've had after the first 4 games in the top flight, like ever. And the only seasons, let me just go back to it. The only seasons that we've actually got more points after 4 or more points,
please.
More points after 4 games.
Hey, Dan, watch it about more pints. I mean, you're lucky there was no RHEA there on Sunday because that could have been a mad one.
Always a mad one with RHEA, but yeah. So there's literally only been 3 other seasons that we've gotten more than 7 points or more in the first 4 games in the top flight. So we're doing well. We are
doing well. Yeah,
we are doing well.
What is out of interest, Dan?
1991, 91-92, and 15-16 under Pardiola.
I had a feeling 15-16 was one of them, but I thought there's no way a Premier League season. So it had to be a Division 1 season. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I mean, yeah. So it had to be a Division 1 season. But I think we're doing well. I mean, there are very obvious gaps where we need to improve. I think that is plainly obvious. Yeah. And also, I would. I'm gonna. Maybe this is a bit early, but I'm gonna expect apologies from all the dads on Twitter who told me that Edouard wasn't very good. And in response to me saying that he should be played on the left because that's where he played at Celtic, and he's good player when he runs at people and then comes in and finishes on his right. I'll accept those apologies in any way, preferably a £10 bank transfer. But at the end of the day, all we want from him and Mateta is to score goals. Yeah. That's all we got. We got creative players. We got Eze and Elise when he comes back. Lerma and Decore are very good as well, and even Anderson when he pushes forward. We've got
Mitchell.
Players.
I think, you know what? I'm going to big him up, because I've been on Tyrick Mitchell's case for a while because I'm thinking there's a player there if he just goes a little bit further forward. And it's good to see in his interview, he was saying that the coaching staff are getting at him to get up the pitch more because, look, we had no width down our left-hand side. And obviously, look, Schlupp's playing out of position. We understand that. But you're thinking in your head, okay, we're waiting back on França to come back. Why not, if need be, play Jez on the left? And I'm aware people are going to say Raksachi's not ready. That is a valid point. But it can't hurt to put a winger on the left who is left-footed to maybe just fill in the blank until França is ready to come in. Because obviously, Elise is still yet to come back. And I don't really want to see Ayew dropped, personally speaking, because Ayew, I think this was probably Ayew's worst game so far this season. And I'm not saying he was bad on Sunday because he wasn't. But of the 4 games we played, I don't think Ayew was as good as he was in the previous 3. I'm not saying he didn't do enough because he won a very good free kick that Eze was unlucky not to score in. But if you look at the overall, everything was going through Eze and later Mateta. Ayew was more or less just getting involved with Ait Nouri, who I can't believe the two of them had a little scrap on the pitch. I'm like, lads, there's no need for that. Like, it's just handbags. Get over it. It was so funny. But that referee was shocking for both teams. I don't know what he was doing for half the game. He lost complete control of that game, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. Well, there was a dubious call again through VAR of a penalty, which was judged to be not a penalty in the end.
It wasn't a penalty, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I've looked back at it. I don't think it was a pen.
Having watched it back, it wasn't a penalty for me.
I think, yeah, it's one of those ones. I don't think it was a dive, but I think it would have been quite soft if it was given. And
I think Ebbs made the most of it, Dan. To be honest with you, I think he's tried to be clever and it's not worked. But he needs to be careful because that could look like a dive.
And I got to be honest with Ebbs at the moment. Like, he's brilliant in every other way, and I absolutely love the man. Like, I've got a picture, I've got a selfie with him and everything. But I feel like he's done that a couple times. Like, he did that against Arsenal, and I didn't think that was a penalty. I feel like there was another incident this season as well. He tried that, and it didn't.
Sheffield United.
Yeah, and I just think for a player who's as good as he is, does he need to do that? I'm not too. I could see the Arsenal one. I could kind of understand because it was more Thomas Partey pulling out of the tackle that made me think, okay, it's not a penalty. Or like yesterday, I don't think it. Or not yesterday, sorry, Sunday. I don't think it was a dive, but it was very soft, and I don't think needed to maybe go down to ground.
He made a meal of it, is what I would say, Dan. I think he made a meal of it more than I think he tried to buy the contact, and correctly it wasn't given, but. Obviously, when you're in the ground and you can't really see why it wasn't given, you're just going to think, oh, it should have been a penalty. And I know I said in my fan cam it should have been a penalty, but I watched it back and I went, nah, if the shoe's on the other foot and they get a penalty like that, we'd all be cheesed off. So, it's probably 100%. The right call that the penalty wasn't given. But look, to be 7th in the table after 4 games, obviously there's nothing to celebrate because 4 games in doesn't reflect the true nature of the table. But this time last season, we were nowhere near that. So, there is improvement there, but obviously we are missing some key players. I don't think Wolves are as bad as some people make them out to be because I think with a bit more clinical finishing, that could have gone either way. But for the heat of the day, it was a very, very good day out for all of us.
Yeah.
But
I do just want to say before we move on, this was something that I took note of post game, in that Crystal Palace released a statement on their various social medias, reporting that a Wolverhampton Wanderers player had experienced racial abuse from a fan from the main stand at Selhurst Park on Sunday afternoon. Now, let me just say, on behalf of Eagle-Eyed Football, we condemn this so-called fan. This is 2023 racism, abuse in any way has no place in this game, not now, not ever. And this so-called fan should really take a look at themselves in the mirror and really, really think about themselves. If you go to a game, if you spend your hard-earned money on to go to Selhurst Park or to go to any stadium and you abuse another player in any form, you really need a good long look at yourself in the mirror because you are just an idiot.
Yeah.
So let me just say that is in no way a fan of Crystal Palace. No way.
And the thing is, like, it just doesn't make sense either. Like, the club's based in one of the most diverse parts of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, we've got a very diverse fan base. Like, the club was built on the backs of people from here and other places, and their kids and their grandkids who have helped build this club, whether they were staff, players, fans, whatever.
Dan, just quickly, look at our channel logo in the top right-hand corner. That shows you the diversity of this football club.
Well, yeah, exactly.
He's looking all over the shop.
I was looking at the top corner of my screen because I haven't got it like thingy. So I was like, what?
Oh, right. No, but what I'm saying is that you look at the thumbnail of our channel as a prime example. We've got fans from all walks of life as members of this channel. And you look at somebody like that idiot on Sunday. Hang on a second. This has happened before because that idiot at Tottenham last season who was caught on camera doing what we all know they did. We don't have to go into detail about it, but it's very worrying that this is a recurring theme now because it's one thing for it to happen once, but twice. And my fear is it might have been targeting a particular kind of player because remember, Son was the target at Tottenham last season away.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily confirming that it was Hwang Hee-chan, but I have reason to believe it could be somebody on Wolves' left-hand side, our right-hand side, because if that's the case, then that's worrying because we don't want these individuals in any walk part of the game, let alone at this football club. So obviously that fan was arrested, but the club need to ban that person for life. And in my opinion, as I said on my Twitter account, name and shame. We want to know who this person is. I know it's a police investigation, so they won't do that. But reality is we don't want any people like that at this football club because we pride ourselves on being a community football club, as all clubs are. But you look at the diverse amount of people that were at Selhurst Park on Sunday. Nobody would turn up if they knew, oh, there's racists at Selhurst Park. We called them lot up the train tracks, the racists, but look what's happened. Do you know what I mean? I don't know it's only one person, but it's not a good look. And it's something that we need to make sure that more and more people are pinning people like this because it's just, I'm amazed there's no footage of it because you know how people are these days. Anything like that and it's recorded. But look, the fan was arrested. Hopefully they get the book thrown at them. That's all I have to say on that.
There we go. Let's go on up to Anfield as Liverpool coast past Villa at Anfield. Szoboszlai gets his first Premier League goal of his Liverpool career pretty much instantly in the 3rd minute. This is followed up almost just under 20 minutes later. Matty Cash getting caught out and he puts the ball in the back of his own net. And then later on in the second half, despite all the interest he's had from Saudi Arabia, Mohamed Salah finds himself back on the score sheet for a simple 3-0 win for Liverpool. This was the kind of win that they desperately needed, especially on the back of all this Salah, will he go, will he stay news. Gents, in one word, Mohamed Salah, will he stay at Liverpool by the end of this football season?
Yeah. I just got a feeling that they won't accept it.
Nate?
He'll go next summer.
He'll go next summer. Okay.
He'll see it out till May at Liverpool, and then there's not like bear in mind, Liverpool's owners are very business. The minute they see big money cash, they'll go for it. So I think Salah will try and stay at Liverpool for the season because obviously Liverpool right now, they're in a massive, massive problem because they've lost a lot of key players. They haven't really managed to bring in the replacements they needed. They can't afford to lose Salah this season because they lose Salah, they're in big problems. So I don't see him leaving just yet, but I can't see him staying because the money that Saudi Arabia will offer him, no one's going to turn that down if it's thrown at them unless, you've got moral questions about Saudi Arabia. But we've seen Jordan Henderson go there, so you never know. But this season, I think he'll stay at Liverpool.
Okay. Aston Villa, obviously, 3-0 loss here. It's sort of like a roller coaster month for their first 4 games. Heavy loss at the start, followed by an instant return to bring their goal difference back up to level on, I think, the second game alone. The wheels sort of came off the train this weekend, didn't it?
Yeah, they seem to do well in some games, but implode on other games. Like Newcastle game was another prime example of that.
Do we feel like this is a case of big team? They're not going to get a result here because obviously they've gotten against Newcastle and Liverpool, both teams who are in European places as well. And then they've gotten wins over the easier teams or the lower teams in terms of their position in the league table.
I mean, I think with Villa, if you look at, obviously they're in Europe this season as well. They're in the Conference League. So they have other things to bear in mind. But their record at Anfield is shocking anyway. I think they've only won there, I think, once or twice in recent memory. So they haven't got a great record at Anfield. So I don't know what convinced me to think they'd win at Anfield. But, you never know with football. But looking at it, Villa by no means will look at this and be like, our season's over. There's nothing to play for now. But they need to pick themselves up. Ironically, they play us when we go back to Premier League football. And obviously our record at Villa Park leaves a lot to be desired lately. But the loss of Tyrone Mings, that's a big blow for Villa because he's a massive part of their team and their setup. But they've still got players that you'd think, right, on their day they could hurt you. So I don't think they'll take this 3-0 defeat and be like, oh my God, what are we going to do? They're going to go, look, you go to Anfield. Most teams lose at Anfield. And if you take anything other than a defeat at Anfield, you take it and you run. Because Anfield's never been a happy place to go since Klopp's been at Liverpool. They've made Anfield a fortress as it once was back in the 80s and in the 70s. But I think with Villa, there's an element of they probably would have expected to be a bit closer to Liverpool. But right now, Liverpool need every point they can get because they're like Chelsea and Man United. A lot of people expected them to be closer than they actually are to the top end of the table because Arsenal and City, for me, it looked like it could be them two again because I don't think Chelsea are ready, United aren't ready, and Liverpool are slowly beginning to get into gear. But from a Liverpool perspective, you'd expect them to be challenging, even with all the changes that have gone on in the background since the close of last season. But look, with Villa, there's an element they were unlucky, and there's also an element of they've got to make the other games they have coming up count, including when they play us at Villa Park next Saturday. Sorry, not next Saturday, Saturday after.
Yeah. There we go. Let's go on to perhaps probably the most valued for entertainment game of the entire game weekend. And when I saw this picture, when I was watching the match, this was hilarious. Never leave a game early at Arsenal, especially when it's Manchester United, because this was incredible. This was an incredible game. Back and forth action between both teams here. Marcus Rashford gets the goal off the left flank, hits the post, beating Ramsdale, and it's 1-0 before Martin Odegaard, supplied by Gabriel Martinelli, yet again fires in low for an equaliser instantaneously. Then it would sort of be a case of United getting chances, Arsenal getting chances. The best chance would obviously be Alejandro Garnacho. He is caught offside just. Having looked at the still for the picture of the offside lines, he is played offside by the fact that the Arsenal defender, is just leaning his head ahead. He's leaning his head ahead of Garnacho. That's all it was. So that was brilliant. That goal obviously is rightfully disallowed, much to the disappointment and I would say the quiet fury of Erik ten Hag in his post-match interview. And then the maddest 5 minutes I've ever seen added on. So originally this was 8 minutes of time added on at the Emirates Stadium. Declan Rice, who would score at point blank range, wasn't challenged by any Man United defender. There was a Man United defender who was about to challenge him, but he was brought down, not judged to be a foul in this case. Rice scores with Onana just his hands must be made of paper mache because the guy has no strength whatsoever. Declan Rice scores the winner and the Emirates explodes into euphoria. And then Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Jesus would score. Jesus.
Dan, is that a sin bin?
I prefer not to speak.
Well, it would be. I think it was it. No, it wasn't Lindelof who was dropped. Well, there was a Man United defender who pretty much just got dropped to the floor like he just got shot, and the ball would just pretty much roll into the back of the net. Onana, nothing he could do about it, and it ends 3-1 to Arsenal. Guys, this was. Well, we all know how happy Tariq was when this result came in. Nay, I'm going to start with you because you somehow got this prediction spot on. What are your thoughts on this Arsenal win? This is a huge win for them. Do you agree with that?
I mean, it is a huge win because I grew up in the era where this was the biggest game on TV. It didn't matter if it was Liverpool, Man United, which is still a big game. I was around for the Vieira, Keane, Van Nistelrooy, Henry era.
Yeah,
And that's where this was the box office game of the season. It didn't matter where the teams were, because the two of them were more than likely gunning, no pun intended, for the Premier League title year in, year out. Obviously, Chelsea proved to be the new kids on the block, and then subsequently Man City and a resurgent Liverpool. But that, for me, was a throwback to the old school of the Arsenal-Manchester United rivalry. And look, obviously, predictions league-wise, I'm delighted. I got the results spot on, so obviously that's great for me. But if I'm Erik ten Hag, I'm livid with the way the game ended, because he's have a right to feel aggrieved about certain things that didn't go in his team's favour. If I'm Mikel Arteta, I'm thinking, right, more of the same, just don't leave it that late, because imagine leaving early. If you're an Arsenal fan and you're at the Emirates, I would have been raging. But end of the day, that's what that game means to these fans, because this is a massive rivalry built off the back of two iconic managers in Ferguson and Wenger, who built English football's Premier League to what it is now. Because let's not forget, between them, they both have, 16 Premier League titles? Unheard of. Ferguson's got 13, Wenger's got 3. So to have 16 Premier League titles off the back of an era before the oil-rich clubs of Chelsea and Man City got into the picture, they built the Premier League to what it is. So for all this talk of Chelsea and City and Liverpool have revitalised the Premier League, it was built off the back of the success of both Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger. Obviously, Fergie had way more success than Wenger, but 16 Premier League titles between these two clubs, and they want to disrespect this fixture over some of the new kids on the block. Nah, for me, it's not happening. I think it's definitely a credit to both teams that it was such an entertaining game. But if I was a Man United fan, yeah, I'd be sick, because it's never nice to lose to a team you hate, as we found out last season.
A bit of breaking news there. JC's putting in his brick of the week. I think he's actually... JC, can you clarify? Is this because you're the only one who's actually nominated our brick of the week? So I'll leave this with you. Do you want to change your brick of the week nomination to Erik ten Hag for this Jadon Sancho situation? Just leave a comment there. Give us a thumbs up if so, and I will quickly change that. This was a crazy game. Before we hear back from JC about brick of the week, it's time to do the more positive one. It is, of course, time for... That's right, it is time for Baller of the Week, and here are this week's contenders. We have our hat-trick heroes against their respective oppositions. Erling Haaland against Fulham, Ferguson against Newcastle, Heung-min Son against Burnley, and an Eagle-Eyed Football nomination for Odsonne Edouard against Wolves, because he was brilliant in that game against Wolves. But I am pleased to announce that for the second time this season, 2 out of 4 weeks, we have a Brighton player winning Brick of the Week.
Brick of the Week? I could have sworn he won Baller of the Week.
Baller of the Week. And you could just see Dan's not happy about that. Dan is not happy about that.
I'm more offended by that than you calling Jesus.
But yeah, his hat trick does win him Baller of the Week. Thank you very much for that one. So there we go. Right, I have heard back from JC. It is time to announce this week. It is time for Brick of the Week, and this week's contenders are Eddie Howe for Newcastle United, Erik ten Hag for Manchester United, VAR at the City Fulham game, and myself. I am just to prove to you that I am as gracious in victory as in defeat. I had a mare on the fan cams, so if you want entertainment value, go and watch the fan cams from the Wolverhampton Palace game at Selhurst, because oh my god, I had a mare. I forgot man of the matches like 3 times. Rich had a reaction to me calling him Eagle-Eyed Rich 3 times. To which he just left me hanging when we set up the Palace, and at the end of his fan cam, it was not great. Yeah.
And a
Not
couple
great.
of other things off camera that people won't know about. So it wasn't a great week. It wasn't a great Sunday for you, Nicky. Let's just say that.
It wasn't. But this week's,
if you know, you know. And Dan's laughing because he knows what I'm on about. If you know, you know. No.
And JC just giving a thumbs up there because to confirm that he will change his brick of the week to Erik ten Hag. Now, this situation has just come out recently between manager and player, that player being Jadon Sancho, in that there is a lot of criticism with the former Dortmund winger apparently not showing enough in training, not really, warranting being chosen in the team. Keep that. I reckon that's something that should be kept behind closed doors. That's something to talk about on the training pitch.
No, that's something kept between the two of them in the manager's office. It's not the fact that he's aired him out like that. That's him trying to deflect from what was effectively a bad choice by him to bring on Maguire and Evans. Who between them, you knew what you were going to get into because the two of them are just not Man United standard. But to air Sancho out like that, there's no need for it. Like,
there is no need.
By all means,
yeah,
be annoyed that
agree.
your team lost and everything else, but to air someone out like that, no, there's no need for, because we know Sancho's a good player. So I fully understand. Ten Hag has to take brick of the week this week because there's no need for that.
100%. And I just saw that. I completely agree. JC's got that bang on.
Yeah. Just before we go on, there we go. This is no need, and it is a proper pagan move. Yeah, you're all right there, JC. Just before we go on to the FPL, here are the updated scores in case you'll see the graphics for the Wolves match review. But here are the total scores for game week 4 on the Eagle Eyed Football Predictions League. Let's go see who. So we'll start with us three here. So Dan scores 5 points off his predictions, and yes, we did check. He did not copy anyone. So well done, Dan.
Thank you.
Woo! I think next week we'll see you in Baller of the Week.
2 last-minute goals, absolutely just.
It was Heartbreak Hotel. Heartbreak Hotel.
Not for me, it wasn't. I'm just saying it was the best thing ever for me. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So I mean, two games I had last-minute goals completely mess it up.
So because of his 15-point deduction, and if you don't know why, go back to last week and watch that because it was hilarious. Dan is now standing on 19 points. Let's go over to Mr. Nathan. He earns 7 points from his predictions with 1 correct score. He shares that with the greatest editor of all time, RHEA. 3-1 there. So well done, Nate. I think you and RHEA have the only correct score out of the team. So well done. Well done, both.
Really?
Yeah.
Mad.
2
Yeah,
great.
everybody but me and RHEA had a mare on the predictions this week.
I wouldn't say a mare. I'm not going to say a mare because there's one other person who got this. Well, there's 2 people who got the same amount of points. RHEA actually had the most points out of this. Nathan now stands on 27 points. JC and myself, I think we've got the exact same results. We do. That's hilarious. So JC and I have 7 points from each and every single one of the games there that we predicted on. JC now stands on 36 in second place, and I am still in first place on 38. It's good. It's good to be number one. It's good to be number one. Rip gets 5 points off of his predictions. He had all of us were really, really annoyed at that last minute Arsenal goal because it would have been a good score for him. He is on 30 points. RHEA is on 29 and the guest is on 13. So yeah, there are your predictions leagues. You'll be able to see more about that.
Sorry, Dan, just quickly, is it me or is there a bit of smug hanging around Nicky's screen there? Because he doesn't look as clear with all that smug hanging around him.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you from all the way up here.
Yeah, you're not that far ahead, mate. Calm down.
11
Calm
points.
down.
11 points. You need
Which can change in 1 week. So
exactly.
relax.
Exactly. But for now, for the moment.
This doesn't happen very often, to be fair.
Thank you. Right, let's go on to the Premier League table here. Let's have a look at it. As we see, Manchester City, absolutely perfect. Look at that. Not bad there from Manchester City. They are closely followed by Tottenham, Liverpool, and West Ham and Arsenal, all on 10 points. And then we see, look at that. I'm not going to lie. Look at that, lads. We're 7th.
That's the thing of beauty, that.
Oh, dear. Title race incoming. Watch out, Man City. Let's go down the rest of the table into the mid-table section here.
Who needs Erling Haaland when you got John-Philippe Mateta?
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Sorry, hold on. Are you telling me Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace have a better chance of winning the league than Man United and Chelsea? Have we stepped into the twilight zone here? Hang on. This can't be right.
I'm not going to lie.
At least, do you know what? Fair play to Chelsea, Nicky. They just love 12th place. I think they're taking it off us.
Right, let's go down let's go down to the bottom of the table here as we see Luton and Burnley yet to the only two teams remaining now to score any points on the board. And that is it for the Premier League table. Now, I'm just going to head over to here, do this, do that, and here. Oh my God, he's top again. No, he's not. How has he done this again? How?
But he must have been top last week.
He wasn't.
Oh, no, he wasn't. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. No, he wasn't.
He was second on week 2 and now 80 points. He's done it again. Wow. Fair play to Rich. He finds himself in first place. Dear me, as we go down, I'm not going to lie, it's not going to look good for me because I know where I am. CM, big up.
All right, Nicky, what you just say there?
Just ain't looking good, man. It's not looking good at all.
It's not looking good. It's not because I had to change my team out. I had to change a lot of team outs here. So as we go down, we see Martin. There is JC in joint 21st with Aston Villa fan Martin Leonard. Big up to you. Louis in 24th. We're going to keep going down. Here we go. Here's Brush. Big up James. There he is. Finally, he's in there. Dan in 42nd.
I think I had the second best week in the league though.
Going off of it, yeah. Ricky Cullen gets 104 points.
Nicky, you trying?
I'm sort of emulating my older brother over here. Don't care. I took a points deduction because I had to transfer a lot of players out because they were just absolute rubbish. So I've gone down to 47th. But there is your top 50 there, guys. So congratulations to everybody. You can, of course, join us. I will bring up Z. There it is. There's the code. There it is. Join. There we go. Team of the week. Here it is. Sorry, Nate, I've had to block you out, even though your camera's not on, so it kind of does work out. He is the Eagle-Eyed Football Game Week 4 Team of the Week, chosen by us. And Nate, you'll be able to name your Manager of the Month. Manager of the Month? Oh, Vladimir. Bloody hell.
Another blooper. You know what? This is
not a blooper. That's not a blooper. I just got member words muddled up.
It's a blooper. It's a blooper.
Jose Sarr in goal with Trent Alexander-Arnold, Willy Bowley, Nathan Ake, and Dogi making up the defence. Zabozlai and Manor Solomon are joined by Odson Edouard in the midfield. We only say Edouard's in the midfield because he was playing in the 10 position for the most of the second half. And up front are all three hat-trick heroes of the week. Ooh. This was another long episode. Right. What's he laughing at? Oh, yeah, 2 points. Well done. No, fair. I give props to JC because JC had a great week. He had some good scores there. Just unlucky. I think all of us were just unlucky to miss out on that Arsenal because we all said 2-1.
So you say all of us? Hang on, not all of us missed out on it. Hang on.
Can you at least let me finish my damn sentence? Jesus. 2 people on the channel predicted it correctly. So well done to those 2 people. One's a great editor. One's an absolute brick.
Yeah, I'm not the one stumbling my words, mate.
It's called a stutter. Anyway, guys, that has been
something you're accustomed to.
Game Week 4's Premier League review show, only here on Eagle-Eyed Football. We will see you all in about 2 weeks' time for Game Week number 5.
The comment is mad.
It was good. No. Mate, you're reaching there. Anyway, guys, that is it from us. I'm
reaching it. You sound a bit triggered, mate. So, I don't know.
Up the Palace. Here we go.